And welcome back to this Friday edition of InfoWars Nightly News. This is a special report, a special investigation to look into the supposed death back on May 2nd, 2011, of Osama bin Laden, taken out by the Navy SEALs. Now, we're going to try to go through this report as quickly as possible, but the amount of evidence proving that the official story is a contrivance, a fairy tale, is mountainous. We're going to move through it quickly here today from A to Z. First off, we're covering this obviously again because Robert O'Neill, a Navy SEAL veteran of 15 years, came out on Fox News yesterday and with the Washington Post as well and said that he indeed took out Osama bin Laden. Well, here's the problem. First off, remember Private Jessica Lynch, who supposedly took out an Iraqi column? Turned out she was hiding in the back of the vehicle. It was all a Pentagon production to try to recruit women into the military. A bunch of the members of her team that started speaking out, started getting executed and dying in the U.S. and overseas. And she came out and said it was a fraud, a recruiting tactic that I was ordered to be part of in PSYOPs. Jerry Bruckheimer got involved in advising the production of it in the so-called rescue days after the Iraqis had pulled out. Pat Tillman wouldn't be a propagandist anymore. And so he was executed. He was taken out. And it came out in the Army's reports later that he was indeed murdered. And there was a highest level cover-up of that as they get rid of people that are inconvenienced. So number one, there is a long, sordid history of this. Number two, Obama just was defeated in a big election. He needs to remind us that he took out Osama bin Laden. So that's one reason this guy pops up right on time. Now, I'm not putting down Robert O'Neill, but they know we trust Navy SEALs a lot more than Obama. Here's another problem. Two other Navy SEALs, supposedly part of the raid, who've written books and gone public, have said months ago that this story isn't true. I have interviewed family members on air. We'll put some of those interviews on screen for you so you can go see them in full, where they said right after it happened and then years later on my show that their Navy SEAL sons who had died, they believed were basically killed in that helicopter explosion to cover up the fact that it was really a Osama bin Laden body double who was actually working for the CIA that was taken out. And we're going to show a document cam here, and then Rob is going to go over all these articles for everybody here in a moment. But we have over 100 articles, most of them mainstream, showing that there was no body on the ship. They didn't dump him in the ocean. They tried to cover it up. It goes on and on. There wasn't a real Situation Room live feed going on. So that's the most frustrating part of our job, is that we do the research day after day. We came out day one and showed the anomalies. We predicted in 2002 that he'd already been killed with inside sources. They would later roll his body out at a politically expedient point. So we are deep researchers with major whistleblowers like Dr. Steve Pachinik, former head of Pentagon PSYOPs, exposing the fact that this would be rolled out at a later date.
Got that right here.
So we're going to break it all down here for you, and you can check all of these sources. But the reason this is being brought out now is to try to get people recruited into the Navy that's having big problems and PR problems, but most importantly, as a political victory after the election to remind people that Obama supposedly took out Osama. So the whole thing is nothing more than smoke and mirrors. But remember, years after I interviewed the families, talked to Navy SEALs in person, it's come out in the news exactly what our sources told us, that the majority of the families believe they blew up that helicopter months after they supposedly took out bin Laden to shut up the SEALs that were talking about the fact that they showed up at the house, there was no security there, and it was basically a body double that was set up. And it's later come out that the CIA was casing the joint using an inoculation program as the cover. So nothing about this has turned out to be true. Cy Hirsch, Pulitzer Prize winner, has come out and said it's 100% false. Rob, I want you to walk through some of this, and then I'll get into some of the other angles. But again, it's hard to tackle a mountain of evidence like this showing that the official story is a fraud. But I think the biggest issue is all the Navy SEALs on his team are saying different things.
They can't agree. And that's the thing. When you have a bunch of people telling a lie, they can't figure out what the truth is. So they're just going to say different things and then say, no, you're lying, you're lying. You've got a couple books written, SEAL Target Geronimo and No Easy Day, don't agree with each other at all. And these are published books. And they're supposedly interviews with the SEALs, interviews with the teams. One of them's even written by one of the SEALs on the raid who doesn't agree with Rob O'Neill about who was in there first and who actually got the shot off that killed bin Laden. Now, first thing, there's here we did back in 2011 in May, Paul Joseph Watson, 10 facts that prove the bin Laden fable is a contrived hoax. There you go right there. Before that, we published the fake Situation Room photos, which we're going to put up on the screen.
Said they were fake. They admitted a week later they were fake.
Exactly.
We brought up the 10 facts that have now been brought out in Congress.
Exactly. And then you have Obama coming out on a 60 Minutes interview and saying, we didn't even know if it was the Prince of Dubai in this compound. We weren't even sure. So they didn't even have the correct intelligence. And then later you have the administration won't release bin Laden records. And then AP did a Freedom of Information Act request. And here they are from March 15, 2012. The Pentagon told the AP this month it cannot locate any photographs or video taken during the raid or showing bin Laden's body. It also could not find any images of bin Laden's body on the Navy aircraft carrier where the al-Qaeda leader's body was taken. The Pentagon said it could not find any death certificate, autopsy report, DNA identification.
And this is
test.
a year.
They had plenty of time to fabricate
After
this.
the people on the ship by the hundreds said, well, there was no body, no funeral. They claimed a funeral, and then everyone had seen it. They're on, and then they start court-martialing them to shut them up.
Exactly. And it's not like they didn't have any DNA material of Osama bin Laden. He'd been visiting a hospital in the months before 9/11. This came out of Le Figaro. 2 months before September 11th, Osama bin Laden flew to Dubai for 10 days of treatment in an American hospital where he's visited by the local CIA agent.
And that's one of the biggest publications in France.
Figaro.
This is in The Guardian.
On The Guardian, yeah. And then we have a transcript from a 2002 interview with you and Steve Pachinik where he's talking about he was already dead, that he had a kidney problem, and that wasn't even well known. And then President Musharraf said they destroyed his dialysis machines in the caves of Afghanistan.
And I've had the former head of Pakistani intelligence that ran the CIA operations against the Russians on, Hamid Gul, concurring with our analysis.
And then you go to the ship. Leaked, bin Laden not buried at sea, body moved on CIA plane to the U.S. That's not what they told us first. They said we buried him at sea. And then you go to the aircraft carrier. Leaked, bin Laden not buried at sea, body moved on CIA plane to U.S. That's directly opposite of what they said. They buried him at sea, they washed him, they did it all according to Muslim tradition, which doesn't exist. There are no burials at sea.
And Stratford, that's basically a CIA propaganda outfit here in Austin, one of the most prominent, even on to Bilderberg, they came out, and when the emails got leaked, they were saying, say that we brought him to the U.S. to counter Alex Jones.
There you go. And then no sailors saw bin Laden's body buried at sea. And then they started just charging naval officers from that vessel, saying they were for drug use and distribution. So they're trying to cover their butts in every situation.
The most court-martials ever for a ship.
There you go. So bin Laden was buried at sea from the Carl Vinson in May after the al-Qaeda leader was killed in a raid by U.S. Navy SEALs on his Pakistan hideout. The ship normally has 5,000 sailors. As I said, it was unknown if any of the sailors faced discipline.
So again, we got Reuters here, but then we've got them later in the Associated Press saying a totally different story after Stratford tells them to come out with this news story to, quote, counter Alex Jones. So again, I'm not bragging when I say we've been following this day one. It's not like we're Johnny-come-latelys. I met with a Navy SEAL who was active duty, whose friend blew up on the helicopter, and he talked to their family and said they talked to other SEALs and that they believe a bomb was on board and that Obama was getting rid of them. Well, then, years later, I get other families on to say the exact same thing, and then now it's even on Fox News. So what I'm saying is we had the intel day one. We were proven accurate. This isn't about us. It's that our sources were correct, and it's all been borne out, so we know what really happened. He'd been dead a long time. They went and set up some guy that looked like him, enough like him, to fool and to mess with the minds of the SEALs who aren't sure. Then they blow up a helicopter on the ground to confuse things. A couple of months later, they blow up another helicopter with 23 SEALs. They said no training, no mission preparation. They'd never been on a mission like this. They fly them out and they get blown up. I mean, this is a major setup. Keep going through it.
BBC even released a report where they interviewed neighbors, and none of them ever even saw bin Laden in the 5 years he was supposedly there. They had never seen him. And then you have that crazy video that came out of the guy saying that the helicopter landed, then it was taken off and it blew up and there were bodies everywhere. So who knows what happened that night? We're never going to find out. That's why you have to create all these fake books and Hollywood productions, with Catherine Bigelow jumping in.
To make
exactly.
it a fiction.
Yeah.
To make it a legend. Yeah, but that's what I was told day one by the SEALs, is that, no, they blew up the helicopter, taken off, and nobody shot at it. They'd already taken the guys out in the house, limited resistance. And then they really figured out when the second helicopter blew up. These aren't stupid guys.
This is an operation against us. We're being useful idiots.
That's what they said. We're being taken out.
Yeah.
And so now this guy comes out. He didn't get killed that night when the helicopter blew up. He didn't get killed when the other SEALs, all from this mission, got crammed on. And he's now out here. Robert O'Neill, and the other SEALs don't agree with him. So who's lying? Is it the other SEALs or is it Robert O'Neill?
Are they all lying? They could all be telling part of a tale just to keep it confused. It's called a smokescreen. It's a propaganda technique that they use, and they throw out a lot of different things. So you're not sure what's going on. So you got
and then meanwhile, the guys that wouldn't play ball,
they're dead. Dead men tell no tales. And that's the sad thing about this, because you do have these SEALs that go on dangerous missions. They've got some top secret clearances. They're out there putting their lives on the line. And
they're
now,
commando spies.
Right. And now they're part of this whole fabrication. And it's really sad to see that it's still going on after all these years. We put out tons of reports about this stuff. Day one, we came out and said it was a hoax. I mean, and then we just kept finding proof after proof. It just keeps laying itself out.
We said they didn't dump them off the aircraft carrier. They admit that now.
Yeah.
We said the Situation Room was fake the day after it.
They said there was no video. And then it comes out, well, we don't have anything. We don't have anything from this guy. We don't even have photos of his dead body.
And let's not forget, Pat Tillman being used for PR, wouldn't play along. They murdered him.
Yeah.
Jessica Lynch.
Murdered her team.
Murdered a bunch of the team, and she went public and said it's all fake, it's all a lie. For her own safety, she had to do that. So this is a major PR move for Obama and for others. And that's only the tip of the iceberg. But we'll put some links on prisonplanet.tv under this special report after it airs tonight, where people can go back to the original special report we shot the day after. The report I shot.
In the car. Yeah.
I mean, I met with this Navy SEAL and then didn't.
And you were freaked out.
I didn't even come to the studio.
Yeah, you shot this in your car.
I shot it in a car in the parking lot.
Yeah.
And then uploaded it to YouTube on that Saturday. And then I met with other people, and the government all knew this. They were all just too scared to talk about it. I'm crazy enough to go with it, and it turned out these SEALs told me the truth. And it just shows how they're disposable heroes. Now they're flushed down the toilet by the globalist. It makes me want to throw up because these guys really are the best, and they really do go on a lot of important missions and save American hostages. And I have a lot of respect for special forces from the Army, the Navy, the Marines, you name it. But they need to know that they are disposable, and that when they get involved in propaganda and deceptions, that the politicians up above them, just like Benghazi, they killed Ambassador Stevens to get rid of the evidence they gave him those MPAD missiles.
You know how I know
we
this is
broke
fake?
that, and it came out.
You know how I know this is fake, Alex? My uncle was a Navy SEAL. He was he went to Vietnam. He doesn't talk about anything that happened back in Vietnam. He was an FBI agent. He doesn't talk about anything about that. These guys are coming out here talking about this stuff. They don't do that. SEALs don't do that.
Well, that's what Pachenik said.
Yeah.
And he was founded Delta Force. He was a founding member in Delta Force.
I can't get my uncle to say anything about anything. He just goes, well, there were some crazy times.
That's because they've gone to PSYOPs now against the American people, which is illegal.
Right.
And they're using them as pawns, and it makes them targets. So you've got real missions the SEALs are running, and real missions the Army's running, and real missions the Marine are running. You notice the Army and Marines are not doing this.
Right.
In fact, according to all the people I've talked to, this has made the SEALs a laughingstock. And this guy, Robert O'Neill, coming out, I mean, I'm sorry. He needs to know, he's obviously not stupid, that they don't want him hanging around knowing how this is all baloney.
Right.
Or maybe he is stupid and killed the body double and doesn't know that he really didn't kill bin Laden.
Right.
But the other SEALs do know it was fake.
Right. There's enough that knew that they had to kill 20, how was it, 24 that they killed on that?
23 on the helicopter.
Yeah.
And again, I talked to people that talked to the SEALs that were there. There was no briefings, no nothing. They just said on a helicopter, and they go, "We don't ever do this. What is this?"
Yeah.
So
it was
they
a
were
National Guard helicopter.
Yeah,
too.
they were all freaking out when they were flying out there. They were set up,
and then they were some of them survived the crash, and they were still fighting, and no support, no nothing. It was, we're going to let you guys die, and that's sad. That's really sad.
Well, they were flushing them down the toilet. And what's going on is it's a bunch of cowardly politicians that just want to look like heroes. Yep. And, Obama took out Osama. And then meanwhile, they have to be gotten rid of, just like Jessica Lynch's team.
And Pat Tillman.
When they started coming out and speaking out, they started dying. Well, folks, that's it for this expanded edition. Anything else, Rob?
No, I think we covered it.